Hello, I'm John Feldt, and this is the Weekly Water Outlook National Edition. These are the number of rain days across the nation as of September 20th for the last 7 days. You can see that rain fell over parts of Texas and the middle part of the nation. The southeast U.S., the northeast U.S., and the west has been pretty dry. Those areas in brown are only 0 or 1 day of precipitation. You can see in southern Missouri that was quite wet, 6 to 7 days, that's that area blue, and also South Texas. So where was rain really needed? And that's that area of orange or red, basically the upper parts of the west, Montana, then down towards California. So really most of the west, with the exception of where we've had the very heavy monsoonal type rains over the summer. And then the far south, especially Texas, and then a core in the Midwest. And those areas needed from 3 to 6 inches of rain, and in some cases that very dark maroon or red, 9 to 12 inches of rain. So last week, rain sort of fell where we really needed it. We had some significant rain over parts of the Midwest. This area's been very dry, so that was needed. And especially here in Texas, this area needed at least 6 inches of rain, if not nearly a foot of rain. And in this stripe here and this stripe here, that was really needed in that area. So from a standpoint of rain falling where it was needed, didn't really do all that much in the Midwest. It was only about an inch or so, but still it was welcome. And then into the parts of Texas, that 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain, in some cases even more than that. That area of purple is 10 inches of rain. That was definitely will put a very significant dent in the drought and drought impacts in that area. Close-up of where the heaviest rain fell in Texas, just to sort of point out the areas in red, that's 5 inches or more, and then that area here in Louisiana, that's nearly 10 inches of rain. Now the areas in blue and purple are above normal precipitation for the week. The areas in red are below normal. So just sort of eyeballing it here, you can see the southwest U.S. has been very dry once again, but we did have a generally, I think, more areas than not above normal precipitation last week. And with areas in the U.S. in drought, it was a good week as far as precipitation. Now, you might remember I've been talking about the mean position of this upper ridge of high pressure. It's sort of been drifting east and west all summer long. And we're going to have another transition. Right now, it looks like it's going to reestablish mainly late this week into next week over the western U.S. and be fairly strong. I'll talk about that in just a moment here. Tropics still very quiet. Look at this. Nothing in the Atlantic basin at all. Really the story this year has been sort of some unsettled weather here in the western Gulf. Occasionally we might get a tropical storm or even a hurricane, the very few, and that has pushed off into Mexico. But that unsettled weather occasionally will bring some tropical moisture along the immediate Gulf Coast, and that's why we got some very heavy rain in Texas this past week. And it looks like this week it might be a little bit more over towards the southeast U.S. as it moves along in front. So that's really been the story, this unsettled tropical weather here in the western Gulf. Otherwise, extremely quiet weather, and it looks like it's going to be either an unusually quiet season or maybe even a record-breaking quiet season. Now we are on the down slope as far as tropical activity. We peaked around September 10th, and as we get into October, we're really beginning to fall. Now there is a secondary peak in later October, but still that's just a little tad of enhanced activity. Looks to me like something's really inhibiting development, so it looks like we're going to be very quiet, and now we're sort of going to the point where tropical activity is already on the downslide. So stream flow, 7-day average. Floods in Colorado and parts in the Intermountain West. You can see here that we have above normal stream flow. That's in blue. The rest of the nation is generally pretty quiet in green. That's normal stream flow. Parts of the Midwest have picked up a bit. We had a bigger area of below normal stream flow before this recent rain, but still the middle part of the nation has been trending towards below normal, but sort of a patchwork area elsewhere. Sort of interesting, the southeast U.S. had a very high vulnerability earlier this summer with very wet weather, and it was widespread above normal stream flow. But really, we've had 4 to 5 weeks of quieter weather, dry weather, and that has now resulted in stream flows trending back towards normal. U.S. Drought Monitor, I think the big interesting point right here is this region of Texas, which was in the red area, extreme drought, and I don't see any exceptional drought in there, maybe a very small area. But basically, that is where some of the heaviest rain fell. So it'll be interesting, the classification later this week. I think you're really going to see some improvement over this area. The other thing is the drought over the Midwest. The core of the drought has really been sort of in this region. You can see the brown, which is severe. Again, there's been some needed rain in that. Probably put a little bit of a dent in it, but not all that much. And it's really expanded towards the north and east. And some of the heavier rain in that area has probably sort of extinguished some of this yellow in here because it has been trending east. And that's probably really helped in this area and helped in this area as well, but it certainly didn't totally put out the drought in that region. So the jet stream this week, I think the things we need to watch are, first of all, this pocket of energy. This is early this week in blue. This is late week in yellow. This pocket of energy will be sort of pushing up here towards the northeast, and there'll be one stripe of rain. And then another stripe of rain will be along the immediate Gulf. We have a cold front that's our stalled stationary front right here, and that tropical moisture will stream inland. So the two areas are with this area of energy and then along the immediate Gulf Coast. This is what I was talking about by week 2. Week 2, we have this ridge of high pressure becoming stronger. We have this amplified pattern. Remember, we had this earlier this summer. This is going to bring noticeably cool temperatures in the eastern U.S., noticeably warm temperatures in the middle part and the western part of the intermountain region. And somewhere in here is going to be a transition zone, upper Midwest, Great Lakes region, and that'll have enhanced precipitation. So the rainfall forecast in the immediate future, next 7 days, remember I mentioned here's that stripe with that energy moving up towards the northeast from Colorado, moving right in here. I don't think that's a real high confidence forecast. And then we have the area of precipitation along this boundary right along the Gulf Coast, and that'll be spreading rainfall into the southeast U.S. Elsewhere, it looks like a very quiet week with dry conditions in the northeast U.S., dry conditions in the southwest U.S. And even if we go further out towards October 8th into early October, this is the second week, not much change in this pattern. The two white lines are the primary flow. With the exception of the Pacific Northwest, we have enhanced precipitation along the Gulf, enhanced precipitation this week here. Everywhere else, it looks like either modest rainfall or very dry conditions, such as the southwest U.S. So the takeaway points as we round out summer and head into fall, the action spots, southeast coast, stripe of Midwest precipitation. Looks like the tropics are going to remain quiet. Now, I'll have to keep an eye on that area of low pressure, tropical low. That could become a tropical depression. Keep an eye on it, but it certainly doesn't look like it'll be a rapid intensification. And then I think as we get into next week, late this week into next, the ridge will build to the west and low pressure east with more of a type of transition with an amplified flow as we get into early part of October. Thanks for listening to this week's briefing. I'll be making another briefing early next week.